1, 2, 3, 4. I told you so. I told you. I told you so. I told you. Remember when I told you about 9/11? Remember when I told you about Building 7? Remember when I told you about the fluoride in the water? Yes, I did. Remember when I told you about the New World Order? Remember that? Remember when I told you about the chemtrails in the sky? Remember when I told you that NASA was full of lies? Remember when I told you about the ultra mind control? Well, I just want to say that I told you so, yeah. Remember when I told you about 432 hertz, that is, and what 440 can do to you? It hurts my ears. Remember when I told you about the vaccine agenda? Yes, I did. And that Michelle Obama is a transgender. Yes, he is. The dinosaur fraud, the climate change scam, and yes, Sandra Bullock is also a man. Remember when I told you that there ain't no globe? Well, I just want to say that I told you so. 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 Yeah. Remember when I told you about the TV flicker rate? And how it puts your brain in an alpha state? Remember when I told you about germ theory? Remember when I told you about gravity? Remember that? Remember when I told you about Paul McCartney? Remember when I told you about direct energy? Remember when I told you about Monsanto? Well, I just want to say that I told you so. 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 Yeah. Remember when I told you about the mainstream media? Your so-called celebrities and pedophilia. Remember that? Child trafficking and adrenochrome. Remember when I told you about the Georgia Guidestone? Remember when I told you about the false flag operation? Remember when I told you about 5G radiation? Remember that I told you that? Well, I just want to say that I told you so. I told you so. I told you so. I told you so. Yeah, I told you so. Yeah. But you didn't listen. I told you so. I told you so.
Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. Thought I'd mix it up a little bit today. I'm Ann Vandersteel, and welcome to a special double feature edition of my show, Steel News. Today's program exploring two of the most critical backgrounds in America, the fight for our children, the fight for our republic. In the first half of our show, we're going to turn to Florida, where parents, grandparents, and concerned citizens are definitely pushing back against what has been infiltrated in our schools: graphic sexual content, AI-driven data harvesting, political indoctrination, and a system that's increasingly treating parents as obstacles instead of partners. Ryan Kennedy, program manager of educational policy and advocacy for the Florida Citizens Alliance, has been on the front lines of removing explicit materials, exposing the porn in schools scandals, and advancing parental rights, as well as offering real alternatives like micro schools. I homeschooled my children, so I'm really interested to see what these micro schools are all about. It's the first time I've heard of it. He's going to be joining us to break down the current state of classroom war and what every parent needs to know. Then in the second half of the show, we shift from corruption in our schools to the corruption inside our government itself. Our second half of the show guest is Ivan Raiklin, retired Green Beret, constitutional attorney, intelligence insider, and according to the federal investigative records, the most targeted man in America. Ivan has been investigated by DHS, DOJ, DIA, DOD, TSA's Quiet Skies program, of which I am an official member, and even Congress. Why? Because he refused to bend the knee. Love it. To unlawful COVID mandates, right on. To election irregularities, well, there's a shocker. And to a captured intelligence apparatus operating above the Constitution. I think we all know that by now. New revelations, including subpoena trails tied to the DOJ's Arctic Frost program, paint a damning picture of political weaponization and deep state sabotage. From the classroom to the Capitol, from the indoctrination of our children to the infiltration of our institutions, the show today reveals how these two seemingly separate battles are actually connected. Both are about control, power, and the silencing of anyone who dares to expose the truth. So stay with me. This is a show you're not going to want to miss. So before I can get too far, I just want to let y'all know if I sound a little strange, it's because I am feeling a little strange. I don't know what that is in the air they're spraying, but my voice seems to be taking a vacation today, so I apologize. No, not going through puberty. Been there, done that. In the meantime, I want to bring on our guest right now, Ryan Kennedy. It is great to have you on here, Ryan. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you for having me.
Well, right on. So to start, can you tell our audience a little bit about Florida Citizens Alliance? It's a mission. Or sorry, I should ask you for what its mission is, what your three pillars are of the work of your mission, and how you came to focus on education, policy, and advocacy.
Yeah. So the Florida Citizens Alliance is a 501c3 and a C4. We are focused on protecting children here in Florida and improving their education. We started back in 2013 in Southwest Florida. We quickly realized that we needed a statewide approach. Like all things, the larger governments try to do things at their level. So we quickly realized that we needed to be at state level. And from there, we decided to focus on three pillars. First was our legislative pillar. Second was our community, our Kids First team focus. So trying to get out into the communities. And our third is our microschool initiative, which you touched on in the intro. But that's really trying to focus on providing a solution outside of the government-controlled schools for Florida children.
Well, I having raised children in Florida, having tried the school system, I had to do private for a while because the public schools were just a joke, and they had introduced Common Core math, and I remember going to battle with the teachers, and I said, you know what, I'm going to homeschool my children instead. It's a lot easier, and my kids all played competitive golf, and so we were traveling all the time. It was much easier to homeschool. They had much more free time. But the microschool strategy is something I really want to learn about. But before we do get into that, I want to understand one of the projects that you spearheaded about porn in the schools. Could you describe what actually prompted that effort, what you uncovered, and what the current state of that problem is?
Yep. So back in 2018, we decided that we were getting a lot of messages from grandparents, parents saying that, hey, my grandchild is being exposed to pornographic content in schools. And these were in the form of library books that were the kids were checking out. So we formed a volunteer group of folks to come together and review those books And what we found was that we went out to all 67 counties in Florida, and that a vast majority of those counties had pornographic books. We went out with a list of 55, and the vast majority of them had a majority of those books. Some of them now has become famous. If you think of, what happened in Virginia, for example, that was kind of where the lid was blown out, and folks like Glenn Beck and some of the other national speakers have really put a shine light on it. But what we still have is a series of books and counties across the state of Florida that really aren't complying with state law. We've done a great job over the past couple of years to pass some good state laws related to these books and trying to remove, pornographic content. And these districts are still not complying. Famously, Hillsborough County, Broward County are just some of the two biggest. Palm Beach County is another one.
Yeah.
And what we've done is we're now trying to go back to the legislative body and get another bill in to close this loophole, to create consistency across the counties. And eventually it will save taxpayer money, because we won't have to worry about all of these book objection processes, because it will be very clear from the get-go
Great.
that school districts cannot put this material in schools in the first place.
I can't even believe you have to wage this battle, and it's going to take it's taking as long as it is. It's so insane. I mean, the obscenity of it all. And I'm just shocked that we've actually arrived here right now, that this is where we are with, worrying about sending your kids to school. It used to be when you worried about sending your kids to school, was little Johnny going to eat the lunch they provided, and now, thanks to Michelle Obama, I think we got, zombified from the school food program. I don't think she did anything to help that. And obesity and everything is at an all-time high for children. I mean, it's really a shame, the state of our education system. And it's so important. I mean, this was, President Trump's, one of his pillar initiatives was to put Linda McMahon in the Department of Education, and said, you'll know, Linda, when you did a good job when you're out of a job, right? And we still haven't seen the full dismantling of the Department of Education. So it does come down to the states to do this. And Florida Citizens Alliance is really a critical component of that, because you all are standing up for parents' rights and for the benefit of the children. So in that vein, talking about legislative sessions, because in January, the Tallahassee reconvenes, our organization is going to be up there. We're tackling child protective services. But FLCA's legislative agenda includes items such as requiring parental opt-in for AI content in schools, transparent school grades, and allowing parents to review and object to textbooks. Could you walk us through those key items and why they matter? And you can start in any order you want, but if you want to start off with AI content, the opt-in piece, I think that's pretty critical, because AI is on everybody's mind these days.
Yep. Yeah. AI is huge. I was just at a conference last week, and they were talking about a group of state leaders from all different states across the country. AI is huge. And I'll just start with one statistic. ChatGPT, the largest AI provider, has 900 million users worldwide. 80% of those are 25 and younger. So based on that number, a vast majority of them are minors. Out of that listing, 1/3 of those children would ever talk to AI about serious issues like relationships and mental health than a human. That doesn't even include their parents in that. That means a human in general. That could include their friends too.
So what you're saying is they've replaced people with a computer.
Yes, that is happening. 1/3 of children have just decided to do that. And so what we've done is we already have seen school districts in the state of Florida rolling out AI access to children. And so there is no regulatory laws in Florida really protecting kids. There is no state laws in Florida protecting kids on this at this level. So we have to go in there and start setting the guardrails in place. And part of that, like you said, is that opt-in piece, which we think is the most important first step, making sure that parents have to approve their child to use AI in schools. That's the first big step. If a parent can't decide that, then your child's just going to have access to AI. And quite frankly, they probably already are using AI. Just based on the numbers, most children are already using AI, but we want to make sure that the parents are in the driver's seat.
Absolutely. The children today are born practically with a cell phone in their hand. This is a tech world. It's a tech generation where billions and billions of dollars is being spent by the federal government on increasing artificial intelligence capabilities, making us the AI capital of the world. There's fights over land and water all over this country right now because of these massive buildings they have to build in order to do the AI processing. Just that alone is erupted in, land grabs and eminent domain, all kinds of ugliness all over our country, and in areas where they really can't afford to remove the water and give it up for just AI content and computer processing. Is there anything else that we can be doing as a country? Because if you're tackling it here locally, what as a country can we be doing to make more noise about this? Because while I think AI is useful, I see it as very troubling when we don't really have sort of a societal, guardrails to keep our kids from turning to an artificial machine for some sort of comfort. It seems like insane to me. It's not a tool; it's replaced mom.
Yeah. No, I agree. And honestly, what we need as a society, for one, is we need parents to know the facts that your
Right.
child is probably using AI already. And to realize the facts about AI, which is that, for example, ChatGPT, its largest information base where it gets it from is from Reddit. That's where
Hmm.
most of the information from ChatGPT comes from. We already have seen sexual content. Famously, Joe Allen last week or this week actually just talked about AI sex teddy bears. I mean, these are teddy bears that are talking about sexual education. I mean, AI is going to be used for good, but also for bad, and that's really where, again, parents need to be in charge, and making sure that we have parental opt-ins is very important.
Absolutely. Let's talk about transparency in school grades. How are you tackling that?
Yeah. Well, what we'd like to see is, for one, true numbers when it comes to school grades. Right now in Florida, 62% in elementary school or 64% in middle school and high school gets you an A grade in Florida for a school. That's not how the students get graded. How students get graded is 90% or better as an A. But our schools are graded on a steep curve. And so what we'd like to see is that cut score get raised up. We have school choice in our state, but how are parents supposed to know how their school district is doing when the schools are operating on a system that almost ensures they get an A? That's not good. That's not transparency. And what we'd like to see is that transparency happen. So that
Hmm.
is really what we're trying to get to there. And we really believe that the candidates running for governor in Florida have the opportunity now to get out in front of us and say, look, this is how our system has run. And yes, it's not ideal. So this is why I want to deal with it when I come in. So they don't own the issue when they come in. Instead, they can be the one to fix the issue. That's really what we're hoping to see. But we would like to also see it done at the legislative level as well, too.
Fantastic. What about allowing parents to review and object to textbooks?
Yes. So right now we already have a law that allows parents to review and object to textbooks. The problem is this. What they've done is they've left out teachers' guides. And the reason why that is so important is because teachers' guides have a lot of supplemental materials within it. They also talk a lot about how to structure your lesson, and they bring in all these different content pieces outside of what the regular textbook does. And so teachers' guides are very important to be able to make sure that what is being taught in a school and in a classroom aligns with what the standards are. These teachers' guides are not for public review, but the regular textbooks are. This is such a simple fix, but it's something that the textbook companies really don't want to give out. They say, oh, well, we don't want to give away test results. But the easiest way to do that is just do it as an appendix.
Mm.
Don't let that test results, put it at the end of the textbook, and don't let that part be shown. That's very easy to do. We believe, though, that this is all, again, part of this transparency. Parents need to be the ones in the driver's seat, and they need to know what's going on. And how are they supposed to know what's going on when they can't see a teacher's guide?
Great question. I recall doing a parent-teacher conference. I'm talking, this is years ago when Common Core first came out. And I asked the teacher to teach me Common Core math because I couldn't understand it. I mean, I was actually a good math student for a long time. I went through calculus, even in my junior in high school. I was always like 1 year ahead in math. And I said to the lady, I said, you understand this makes no sense. Like, you're making this way more complicated than it needs to be. Long division does not have to be all this gobbledygook. And she finally said, she sat back in her chair and she just sort of got deflated. And she's like, I know, I know. I believe me, if this wasn't my job, I wouldn't do it. But, and please don't share this with the principal, because I'll lose my job. It's a 30-year teacher or 35-year teacher in the school system. And she had a pension and all this stuff. So of course she doesn't want to lose what she's done 35 years of work. And you could tell she loved children. But, there is this dichotomy. And I don't think there's many of those teachers that exist anymore in the public school system that'll be transparent with you about the lunacy of some of the, curriculum and or objectives that the school is really trying to do that has nothing to do with the 3 R's. So they would much rather operate in the dark and have your kid put out into an indoctrination camp than they would be transparent and have it be an educational institution. And this is the shift that we've seen. And so, again, very grateful for the work you're doing, because when you look at things like through the lens of AI in education, your organization states that 95% of parents are concerned about AI and its effects on their child. And so you all are pushing for these guardrails. What are besides, the primary concern you've already identified with respect to they're turning to AI as their comfort, their mom, their dad, their friend. How is AI being misused in the classroom environment when it comes to actual education? Forget the personal side, but is there misappropriation of AI when it comes to teaching these children?
Yeah, well, right now what we have seen, and like I stated up front, there is really no rules, regulations, laws in place in Florida, and quite frankly, in a lot of states. The only state that's really done much on this topic is Texas. But outside of that, AI can be used for pretty much whatever school district decides it wants to be used for. And so school districts in different parts here in Florida have done different approaches. Really, what concern we see is this. One is AI obviously has the capacity to answer any question that you put into it pretty much. And so when a child is learning, and we want to make sure that they have the basic foundations first before they get introduced to something that can answer their questions for them. That's really important. A study out of MIT actually showed, and this was with college students that attended MIT, no less, that when the college students used AI to be able to write their paper, their critical thinking skills decreased, their ability to synthesize information and to all that important brain waves needed to write a paper, all that decreased. The students that didn't get to use AI at all got to, their numbers stayed the same. And that was with, again, college students. Those are obviously kids, 18 to 21 years old. So we're not talking about, a 7th grader or, God forbid, even an elementary school kid who doesn't even have the basic core functions down in math. And then you can put an AI platform in front of them that can do algebra in 2 seconds. But that is what we're trying to deal with here, is to make sure that, kids get these basic foundations first before they get introduced to things like AI. And then one other thing I'd like to add is the data side of things, the data collection. AI has the capability to collect so much data on a child. That's part of the reason why it needs all this data centers. And all these AI companies, in terms of service, says we need this data. Whatever you put in is ours, because that's what helps the AI continue to learn new things. Yes, correct. Right. And so we don't want our kids to be used as that kind of an experiment to be able to perfect AI. If an adult wants to use it, then that's one thing. But a child doesn't even have the ability to make that decision yet.
Right. And as Christy just puts here in the chat, AI is also biased and programmed. And so I don't think you're getting really an unbiased education from artificial intelligence. I mean, we all know computers are as good as the ones and zeros of the programmer that puts them in there. So if the programmer leans in one direction or another, that information gets skewed, despite the large language model learning, of these machine learning. Again, they can certainly allow, well, we know that this group of people over here is real hardcore left, so we're going to allow a lot of that content to flow in and develop the AI architecture, the brain, the way it thinks, and we're going to moderate. Yeah, we'll interact with these conservatives over here, but we're not going to really allow that to influence the thinking of the large learning model. What is it? LLM.
Yeah, large learning model. Yep, correct.
Right. Sorry. So,
Large language model, actually, but
large
yes.
language model. So, I mean, there's a way for, I mean, like X right now is censoring the heck out of us. It is a joke. In fact, Roger Stone was complaining just a little bit ago. He's lost a couple thousand followers. I get right up to 380,000 that kick me back. I mean, I'm watching it happen in real time. Not that I care, but that's not organic either. That is absolutely X controlling who sees what. And we all know that, I have notifications on for a lot of people. They never show up in my feed. So if they can do it on X, the AI is just as easy.
Correct.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, correct. And to that point, AI is been developed by, a small group of people, and they actually have put in, when it comes to these moral questions, a small group of people have decided these things. Sam Altman did an interview with Tucker Carlson, and he actually discussed this. Sam Altman said that, it was a group of us that kind of put these moral questions, and we kind of wrestled with them and decided how AI was going to interpret these moral questions.
Yep.
Something as simple as euthanasia. Euthanasia is allowed in Canada. It's not allowed in most states here in the US. But again, what is AI going to say? You're going to have a Canada specific AI. Right now, they don't.
Right.
But those are the sorts of things that obviously creates these moral dilemmas with AI.
Right. Wow. Well, as you'll see here, Mario Cicado, forgive me if Saucedo. I'm sorry, Mario. I don't mean to butcher your last name. End the child abuse, leave the children alone. And Gary Weber says, I've been screaming my lungs out that AI will be the downfall of all mankind. Wow. And I don't know what this person means by 64, damn it. But consistency. Anyhow, I'm going through the chat right now, trying to keep up here. Action over talk. Absolutely, Lady A360. We really appreciate that. Okay. And Lady 360 also says AI hallucinates as well.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
actually
it's
one
true.
of
I've
the,
seen him quote, like, I'll talk about the president or something, and it brings up Biden. I'm like, no, Biden's not the president. Oh, that's right. Thanks for correcting me. What?
yeah. Yeah. That's actually a major issue. I was talking with some lawyers within the legal field. AI has made up fake case law. It will actually fabricate cases that never actually ever happened. Not even ones
Wow.
that were wrong, but create all whole cases that were not even true. Um,
Wow.
and
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, because AI primarily, these algorithms are set up to keep you engaged. And so
Right.
that is part of what it wants to keep you engaged. So AI naturally will try to tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's it. That's really interesting. That's really interesting. I bet who was it that was, Kim Kardashian flunked her law exam, and I guess it was, maybe she was using AI to study the law and she thought she would pass the bar. Was it Kim Kardashian? I think it was.
Yeah, I think
Anyway,
yeah.
I don't keep up with the Kardashians, but I read it somewhere and I had to laugh because, she was using AI, and I was like, yeah, she clearly is not clued in onto AI is not foolproof. It's definitely not that. All right. One of the solutions that FLCA promotes are these microschools and other non-traditional education options. Can you explain what a microschool is and how that model works in Florida, and what advantages you believe it brings compared to traditional public schooling?
Yeah. Well, a microschool is actually a terminology that we use to mean a grouping of things. It could be a one-room schoolhouse, could be a co-op, but really, what a microschool does in Florida is it uses our homeschool laws here in Florida, and that's actually a great thing because our homeschool laws are loose. You said you're homeschooled your kids, so pretty much homeschool parents have a lot of flexibility to do what they see best fit for their kids. And
Right.
so these microschools act underneath that law, but what they are is a place for those parents to be parent led, and then the parents can come together and have their kids in one room to teach that curriculum. So what we have done is we help these parents. We come alongside them. We have ambassadors. We call them ambassadors, but they're consultants that help parents start these schools. And so we help walk them through how to fundraise, how to create a curriculum, how to get a code of conduct, those sorts of things put together. And then it's parent led. So a lot of times the parents are the ones teaching their children, but it's a grouping of children. And so there's the community aspect, there's the classical education aspect, but then there's also the Western civilizational worldview, the Christian religion aspect to it as well. And so you're getting kids to be able to be taught the things that you as a parent see best fit. I think that's the most important thing. And so we help parents come alongside. We've helped over 600 families across the state of Florida. We have 20 plus schools currently.
Wow.
And we hope to do, double that this upcoming year. And so that's really what we're working on. And we think that's the long-term approach because, we need to try to meet parents where they're at and meet kids where they're at. So we need to engage with the government-run schools. However, the ultimate destination is for parents to be in charge of their kids' education. And
100%.
we think this microschool program is the way to do that.
100%. So, Ryan, there is a broader ideological battle at play, obviously, with concerns about the indoctrination that we're seeing in our schools rather than education, which has been an ongoing issue all the way through to the universities. How does FLCA approach the cultural dimension of education? In other words, the moral, civic, and family values aspects. And how do you guys respond to critics who argue that this is partisan or religious in nature?
Well, one of the things that we've always done, and again, I've stressed it multiple times here, but is parents, right? And what the parents see best for their kids. And so we've never advocated that one particular religious denomination or whatnot. What we've said, though, is that parents need to be in charge of their kids' education. And so what we've done is we've tried to encourage parents. We've fought for parental rights in school. We've fought for parental rights in the medical sphere within the microschool initiative that we're doing now. But really, what we've always tried to do is our country was founded on certain principles, Western civilizational worldview. And if you look at the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and those sorts of things, what we've always wanted is that kids can be taught the foundations of which our country was founded on. And so we've tried to equip parents to be able to do that. We've tried to help, again, hopefully get the public schools to come along, government schools to come along as well. But again, ultimately, it's really the parents. We believe it's the parents' number one job to educate their child.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt, it is the parents' number one job to educate their child. When you look at threats, right? What do you guys see as the biggest threat? Because from where I'm sitting, I think the education system is the biggest threat out there. It's bigger than ISIS and Al Qaeda and the people that have come across the border. Because unfortunately, the people that have been miseducated think that it's okay to have this flood of illegals and that we should pay for them to be here because they're, quotes, less fortunate. And they've done no research onto who these people are and how they're going to assimilate and what that's going to do to a first world nation. And we're just diluting the quality of life for everybody without being judicious with who we bring in. So education, in my opinion, is the biggest threat in this country. So what are the biggest threats that your organization or you see on the horizon over the next 2 to 5 years in the K through 12 education in Florida? And how is your organization, FLCA, preparing to counter that or counter those threats?
Yeah. Well, I think the number one thing is what we've already talked about is AI, actually, because AI has the capacity to really influence children. Children are not, like I kind of stated earlier, are not discerning enough to be able to determine false from reality or fact from fiction. And so that's why we believe that AI is one of the emerging threats. The other issue that we're still fighting, and again, we've talked about this, is the sexual content in schools. Kids, they have been, the establishment has been trying to, and I don't just mean establishment Republican, I mean establishment within the education system, have been trying to indoctrinate our kids on sexual content for many decades now.
Right.
And it only became known relatively recently what was going on. And what we found is that even though we pass all these laws, even though we try to get these things in, they still try to find a way around it. So I think those are the two big areas. And AI, honestly, will probably help them be able to indoctrinate a little bit more if we don't step in and say AI can't be doing that, because it has the ability to really do that.
It's one thing to say it and to, pass laws or statutes or write it in the teacher handbook. It's another thing to police it in the classroom. And that's where the families really have to be dialed in. I know you all do a lot of events. So I'm going to put some stuff up on the screen here. But finally, Ryan, how can our listeners plug into the work that you all are doing? Because I think it's incredibly important. And Florida's blessed to have your organization. Your Florida Citizens Alliance is phenomenal. So how can they plug into your work? Can they support, volunteer? How can they stay informed? And what's the key initiative you'd like them to jump into now?
Yep. So you can go to our website, goflca.org. That is where our hub is for all of our information. I would encourage you to sign up for our newsletters and our action alerts. We have an action alert system. So when bills are coming through the legislative process, we alert you when that is happening. We actually just sent out an action alert yesterday morning about they're trying to redo this now through the NDAA, this preemption to try to make sure there's no regulation at state level on AI. So we just sent that out recently.
Wow.
Yesterday. So if you guys sign up, you'll be able to see those. And our upcoming event actually this March is going to be in our gala is with Ali Bestaki and Kevin Sorbo.
Yeah.
Kevin Sorbo, obviously former Hollywood actor, now turned doing his own thing.
I know he and his wife, Sam. Yeah, they're great people. And she's a big homeschool proponent. She's fantastic.
And Ali Bestaki actually has been going around doing a lot of Turning Point USA events after the tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk. So, we are trying really hard to get the message out there to parents. So highly encourage you to go to our website, follow us on social media, and attend one of our upcoming events.
Fantastic. So this event is 2026, March 11, 5 to 9. It's it's in Naples, Florida at the Gray Oaks Country Club. Oh, how fantastic.
Yep.
Wonderful. All right. Well, I certainly appreciate you joining me today. Ryan, thank you so much. I think the work you're doing is fantastic. And if folks want to follow you on X, they can catch you where?
Yep. It's Ryan Kennedy 63 is on X, or you can just look up Florida Citizens Alliance on social media. That is also a way you can find us, fl.citizens.alliance on Instagram. So those are some ways to access our content.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Ryan, for coming by. I appreciate you.
Great. Thank you, Ann.
Cheers. Say hi to Keith for me.
Yep, I will.
All right. Folks, we got Ivan Raiklin coming up right after this quick break, so don't go anywhere. I think you're going to enjoy this.
Guest has the distinction of being investigated by the Biden administration more than President Trump, if you can imagine that, from the Biden's DOJ to the January 6th committee. Why? For putting America first and wanting honest transparency in our government. That's why they've been out to get him. Now we've got new revelations about Arctic frost. And a new piece by the Daily Caller today saying that whistleblowers are way ahead of Trump's DOJ on telling us about a bigger scandal than Watergate, of course. That is Biden's FBI's Arctic frost probe, which, of course, became Special Counsel Jack Smith's 2020 election case against President Donald Trump. So our next guest, Ivan Raiklin, is that individual who's been targeted more than even President Trump. His name is all over these documents and these subpoenas, and specifically Arctic frost I want to get into. But Ivan, welcome back to the show. Great to see you. We've got a lot to unpack today because a lot of overlapping things that are all sort of interconnected. Great to see you.
Johnson and John Thune denounced me. Sir, or maybe it was Schumer. Mr. Raskin, would you like to answer that question about if you still want civil war conditions? Is that what you're driving to?
Let's go get
Sir?
Let's go get it.
Congressman Massey, why do you think Chris LaCivita doesn't want you to release the Epstein files? What's up with that? And why is he trying to take you out in the primary?
We have all paid a price for our support of Donald Trump. We've lost jobs, we've lost friends, we've had family turn our backs on us. We've been spit on in public, we've been harassed online. We've had our social media accounts deleted, and we were willing to pay that price for Donald Trump because in return, we were promised Simple things: transparency, accountability, a draining of the swamp, an end to the corruption in this country, and a promise that the corrupt people and the criminals would be held accountable for their crimes against us and their crimes against Donald Trump. This bullshit about nothing to see here around the Epstein list, this is not part of the deal. This isn't Trump, you don't just get to decide what we receive now, because guess what, motherfucker? It wasn't us who said there was a list. It wasn't the people saying that corrupt, powerful people were abusing children and that there was blackmail. Donald Trump said that. Donald Trump said those things existed. Donald Trump said there would be accountability for these things. Donald Trump's cabinet said these things. Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, you told us there was evil things afoot and that you would get to the bottom of them. These are not our ideas. These are what you promised us. And if you don't deliver, then you don't get our support. We support you because you were with us. We are standing 10 toes down on principle and our integrity and our morals. And if we can't have some fucking justice for fucking pedos, for just some fucking pedos, if we can't fucking lock up some corrupt pedos, then all this is for nothing. If you can't lock up some pedos and protect children, then I have zero faith that you are going to lock up any criminals that have done far worse of extorting our country, robbing us blind, selling our secrets to foreign governments, being bought off by foreign governments. Everybody with 2 brain cells is out there, all the investigative journalists. There is enough evidence out there that links Jeffrey Epstein to Mossad and Israel, and Israel's crimes against the United States. That's what this hinges on. Pull that pin and get it over with already. You cannot gaslight us. You cannot blow smoke up our ass like we are CNN viewers. We are smarter than that. That's why we gave you our support, Donald Trump. So you either get the fuck off your ass, fire Pam Bondi, because that mistake and that ship has fucking sailed. She has failed us. She lied to us either when she said there were fucking evidence of fucking Jeffrey Epstein and his pedo crimes, or she's lying to us now. Either way, she's lied and now she has to go. Dan Bongino, swing them fucking nuts, son, and stand 10 toes deep on principle. Walk. If they don't fucking send her packing, walk. And to the next AG, you don't get to say the same shit. You fucking deliver. And it's not just a fucking list. We don't want a fucking list. We want investigations, and then the evidence brought forth, and then accountability. That's what we want. Unless you bring us that transparency of evidence and an investigation, you can't just tell us there's nothing to fucking see here. We are not idiots. That is what the American people demand. And you don't get to tell us what we want. We're telling you what we want. This government represents us. We gave Donald Trump our support because he supported what we want. Time to deliver, motherfuckers. And there is no way we are backing off of this shit. No fucking way. Transparency, accountability, and drain this fucking swamp. And you start with the pedos. And it'd be nice if you could throw a wood chipper in there. Give us one, we've put in a lot of effort. We, the people, have put in a lot of effort. We have made sacrifices in our business, in our everyday lives, in our personal lives. And it's time to fucking be repaid for our sacrifices. And that is transparency and accountability. Good luck to you all. Long live this beautiful republic.
Whoo! Talk about turning up the heat. Yeah, we are. We're going to turn up the heat now in this next segment because we're going to turn the fight inside of our American government. And yeah, joining me now is someone who has lived that battle from the inside out. Ivan Raiklin is a retired Green Beret commander, constitutional attorney, intelligence instructor, and a national security analyst. But he's also something else. He's the most investigated man in America, more investigated, in fact, than President Trump, according to the records we now have. From the Biden DOJ to the Department of Homeland Security to the J6 committee to the secret subpoenas tied to special counsel Jack Smith, Ivan's name appears across investigations that were never publicly disclosed until whistleblowers and congressional releases brought them to light. Why? Because he refused to bend the knee. It's my kind of man. He rejected the COVID-era unconstitutional mandates. He questioned the 2020 election irregularities across 39 states. He publicly challenged intelligence abuses and the Fedsurrection narrative. And he traced the internal sabotage networks, political, corporate, foreign, surrounding President Trump. So now we're going to take a deep dive into the Arctic frost probe, the America-only political realignment that he's out pushing, the deep state infiltration, foreign influence operations, and the roadmap Ivan believes is necessary to restore the republic. Buckle up, folks, because if you thought the artist known as Jess was crass, get ready, because Ivan Raiklin is on deck. Ivan, it is great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us today on Steel News with me.
That introduction was absolutely fantastic, Ann. And I'll say this, that gentleman right there, the artist Jess, I think is his name.
Yeah.
Absolutely my twin brother that I've never met.
Woo! I love that guy. I mean, first of all, he really, he's like everybody. We've all been giving President Trump a chance, but you and
he
him
articulates what the Senate unfiltered. Now, I'm a little bit more polite sometimes and diplomatic, where I don't use as many expletives when I'm on different shows. But depending on the show, that is exactly what the thought process, the emotions, the rationale behind like where we are right now. And I forecasted this back on January 6th when that CNN reporter came up to me and said, if we don't see public hangings 12 months from now, will you be disappointed? He asked me. Mm-hmm. I paused and thought, will I be disappointed? America will be apoplectically furious if that doesn't happen. And that right there, that rhetoric that you just played, that is only going to escalate with every minute that there isn't a deep state arrest. I get it. They got 30 days to release the Epstein files. No, every single day, that rhetoric is going to go hotter and hotter and hotter. And I don't know where it's going to end if nothing happens.
So, this is what's been in my craw for a while, these Epstein files, because we didn't throw the first stone. Pam Bondi came out and cast that first stone about the Epstein files. And the next thing you know, when we were all asking, okay, she's like, well, it's on my desk. And then, no, we don't have everything. And I've been to the FBI and I have a truckload of it. It's like, do you have it? Don't you have it? Are you going to show it? Will you not show it? It has been such a shit show, Ivan. And it was really unforced errors because we were all about closing the border, right? And protecting our children. We didn't even we were pissed off about Epstein, but we didn't bring it up. Like that wasn't our lead in. And that isn't why we elected President Trump, but they threw it out there and then they took it away. And then they made fun of us for asking about it. Well, wait a minute. You guys offered it. And then you blamed MAGA and you called us panicans. And now you're blaming the Democrats. The messaging for that whole thing is such a bad look for this administration. Who do you lay that at the feet of?
Great question. You just teed that out perfectly. At some point in time, everybody listening has to kind of do some self-reflection and ask yourself, if you are in the shoes of President Trump, how many times can you blame your staff for inaction? How many times can you blame Ray that you appointed 4 years of tyranny that he was behind and complicit in? How many John Bolton for being a traitor that Donald Trump appointed? How many times can you? I mean, the list goes on infinitely. Mm-hmm. We have to call it out just like the artist Jess did. These are decisions and actions and inactions at the feet of Donald J. Trump. And so that's where we're at. We can't blame the staff for 5 years.
Well, to that point, Ivan, I mean, the first Trump administration, we all knew President Trump wasn't part of the political machinery. And so it was easy to understand that he had to learn what the hell was really going on in there before he could figure out how deep the swamp was. And I think we all
how many months and years and a half a decade in is it going to take for
you're right. At this point now, we all, and I believe with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino making millions of dollars on podcasts and writing books about government gangsters and explaining it all in great detail, and all of the millions of people around the country that dove in as anons and public facing citizen journalists that have dug up the research on the election integrity. We have all the evidence. Trump even said it. I caught them all. Okay, so you caught them all before you left the last administration. Why are we not seeing the arrests now? So I want to pause on that. I want to talk about Arctic Frost because, you and I had the pleasure of walking down Constitution Avenue a few weeks ago on the Sunday before Veterans Day for the National Veterans Day Parade.
I'm actually driving on Constitution Avenue right now as we speak.
Oh, okay. Retracing our steps. Great. So we were walking with General Flynn, which was truly an honor. I call him the world's general. I think he's phenomenal. And he's out there pounding the pavement the way you are. And he's a lot more diplomatic than you and I are, but that comes with a skill set of just being a general. And, we're not. So that's cool. We can be a little more flamethrowers. But, here's the thing. In Arctic Frost, right, there was these subpoenas, and you and I were talking about them at lunch after that whole wonderful day, these newly released subpoenas that revealed that you just found out about that 2.5 years ago, you were on a subpoena list and you were targeted in this Arctic Frost operation tied to Jack Smith, that loser's 2020 election case. First of all, for those that don't even know what Arctic Frost is, because there's been such a deluge of a news cycle, can you just take a second, pull this podcast over to the side of the road and tell people what Arctic Frost is?
Yeah, Arctic Frost, just like Crossfire Hurricane was the name of the FBI illegal counterintelligence investigation into Trump. Arctic Frost was the investigation that was started immediately after Nancy Pelosi's J6 committee was closed down because they lost the House and handed over that investigation / weaponization against Trump and his supporters over to the DOJ. That operation was called Arctic Frost.
They wanted to chill it.
The unlawful politicization and unlawful without predicate investigation into Donald Trump and the rest of the ecosystem around him in order to support the Pelosi insurrection narrative and cover up the Fedsurrection. That's all it was.
Okay, so the Proud Boys.
It was a handoff from Pelosi over to DOJ, Merrick Garland, and then Jackass Smith spearheaded it.
I love how you call him that. So Jackass Smith apparently sent out subpoenas, 4 of them, in fact. A lot of Proud Boys were on there. A lot of Oath Keepers were on there, but you were on there, and you're not part of either of those organizations.
Correct.
But your name was on there, and that was 2.5 years ago. When did you learn that your name was on a subpoena list? And what would you have done had you known 2.5 years ago Jack Smith was subpoenaing you?
Yeah, great question. So the subpoena was issued on February 10th of 2023. And in that subpoena, it requested communications from the Trump fundraising campaign organizations, all 4 of them, if they had any communications with all the 5 Proud Boys that were convicted of seditious conspiracy by Pelosi, and all of the Oath Keepers, right? And then a couple ancillary folks and myself. There were 4 subpoenas that were issued. Again, February 10th of 2023, and the required response was by, I think, February 23rd, a couple weeks of 2023. That is the clearest indication that it was a handoff from Pelosi's Fedsurrection cover-up crew, headed up by Benny Thompson and Liz Cheney, right? And handed it over to Jack Smith. And had I known about that back even like a month or 2 later, I would have been able to investigate everybody in that subpoena request, meaning Jack Smith, Miss Bento, who was the one that signed off on it, his assistant. And then you had the clerk of court here in D.C., which was, what's her name? Miss Caesar. And then you had 2 FBI agents at the bottom of the subpoena where it says, if you have any questions about the subpoena, contact Jeremy Desor or Walter Giardina. Guess what, folks? When you investigate me, I investigate you. It goes both ways. You find me the man, I find you the crime. Well, knowing about the subpoena, I would have known the 3 men that you found for me and the 2 women you found for me that were on that subpoena, so that I could find a crime on them, their family, their neighbors, their associates, their colleagues, every single, like from birth, every millisecond of their life to the time that I found out about it, and all of their movements, I would have scrutinized with a fine-tooth comb. And I have quite the network and relationships to do at least as much investigating into them as they do into me, because the technology is there for me to be able to scrutinize every digital molecule that they leave.
Damn.
But guess what? I didn't know about it. And guess who should have told me about it? Considering I've been a very loyal Trump supporter, a surrogate, an advisor. 2020, I was on Veterans for Trump. I was I was fundraising a little bit for him as well. But no, the betrayal began at that point in time when Susie Wiles and Chris LaCivita, who ran those political organizations, fundraising organizations, failed to notify me, failed to notify anybody on that subpoena list, failed to notify even our attorneys that there was a subpoena out. So that it would, from one perspective, if it was a political decision, which they made in order to not disclose it, that's fine and dandy. But the political decision, what it ultimately does, the second and third order effects of not disclosing that, it doesn't allow people like me to go scorched earth against Jackass Smith.
Right.
And all of them, because I have the knowledge, network, expertise, relationships. I know people in every single government institution, okay, that I've known for decades, that I can leverage lawfully to be able to ensure that those investigating are staying within their legal authorities constitutionally, because they look over their backs. Short of that, they're going to continue to weaponize. And so, in essence, I'd like to say that the reason why Donald Trump is winless, along with Todd Blanche, in every single case practically, except for the Florida one of the reasons is because I didn't even know that I was being subpoenaed. I would have gone completely and pivoted and said, you know what? Hey, Deep State, for now, I'm going to put a pause on you, 1,500 scum. I'm going to focus my life on 5 individuals.
Right. So do you feel like this would have had a major impact had you known you were on this list? I mean, when you look at this list of the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys and Third Amendment Praetorians, you're the only one who's not part of any of those groups, right? And
Right.
a lot of these guys are still dealing with issues from, lack of getting the proper pardon, or they're still being persecuted. So how would you have refocused this? I mean, you said you would have changed it from 1,500 to what, 5? What do you think you could have accomplished? I mean, do you think we would see a different outcome right now, I guess, is the question.
I do think so, Ann, because at the end of the day, I'm retired. I can spend my time however I want it, 18 hours a day, and I can mobilize volunteers, etc., people that want to scrutinize the actions of our government. At the end of the day, I'm just a watchdog, right?
Right.
And so if you send the Rottweiler to the doorsteps of every movement of Jackass Smith, because now it's personal, you're damn well sure I'm going to find something on him. Or let's just say something, I will guarantee something will be found, okay? And that would have taken him off the map, and they would have had to move things around and shuffle things around a little bit and degrade the deep state already back then.
Got it.
I wouldn't have done anything to disrupt their investigation, okay? Because that would have been obstruction, right? I follow the rules, right? I follow the law, even though they don't. There's enough space for us to operate lawfully to make sure that we body check all of them. And that's the space that I operate in. And so that would have led to other leads, and I would have been identified essentially everybody in the entire Jack Smith team to be able to start investigating them, right? And that would have caused some pain for folks, because many of them, like when I go into somebody and deep dive into them, 99% of the time I find dirt on them, okay? And then that becomes uncomfortable for them.
That's like giving the man, I'll find the crime kind of mentality. It's the same thing that they do. Right.
I can do the same thing.
Exactly.
They already did find Ivan Raiklin and find the crime, but I'm undefeated because I live a clean life. I am completely undefeated. I stopped all of them pre-indictment on everything. We've proven the 2020 election's illegal. January 6th is a Fedsurrection. We went into the whole COVID con op. Everything has been proven. They try to weaponize against me across, again, you mentioned some of them. I've been investigated almost 24 times across DOD, DOJ, DHS, the J6 committee, Homeland Security Committee headed up by Benny Thompson, Jamie Raskin's Judiciary Committee when he chaired it, Adam Schiff's Intel Committee, Nancy Pelosi, and then beyond that, I mean, we're talking the entire intel community, because I was a contractor at the Defense Intelligence Agency. They considered me an insider threat. Yeah, I'm an insider threat because you're an illegitimate, belligerent Chinese communist puppet regime that I
That's
was
right.
exposing internally through official channels, externally in my First Amendment capacity, and I didn't bend a knee to anything. 4 middle fingers, 2 from my hands and 2 from my feet, screaming at the top of my lungs, exposing these scum. And it was a hobby that I love to participate 18 hours a day in.
Ivan, this is why you're my spirit animal. I just love you. You don't quit. So I mean, you're my spirit animal. We talked about that. But listen, I want to bring this back because you're talking about the administration. You're talking about Chinese communist puppet regime, all that. These are the things we were calling Joe Biden's, by the way, regime.
Yeah.
And it seems like you're still keeping that branding on this current administration. So let's talk about someone that you...
Not quite. So this administration has pivoted from a China first, illegitimate regime to, I mean, what we see, right? It's a Israel first, foreign leveraged, big pharma leveraged White House.
Right.
And that to me is just, I mean, it's not as bad because they're not weaponizing against me, but it's giving me and you breathing room to call them out for their inadequacies, because guess what? I know exactly what the campaign promises were, and they have still yet to do the basic ones, like pardon all J6ers day one.
Right.
Like getting Tina Peters out. Like
and by the way,
Chick
Tina
Lamond
Peters got put in the hole last night.
I do know that. To me, it's disgusting. Okay?
I cried my eyes out.
Donald Trump has to have some responsibility for his inaction for allowing Tina Peters to rot in jail. And now everybody says, oh, it's a state thing. I got 2 solutions for you, Donald, if Ann Vandersteel allows me to say them.
Go, please. I want to hear them because I'm probably on the same page. Go for it.
Donald Trump, I get it. You don't like my tone, but deal with it. I'm the guidance counselor here. So listen closely. Number 1, here's how you get Tina Peters out. You file a multitude of criminal charges on Jenna Griswold for her involvement in illegal actions related to the 2020 election as the Secretary of State. Immediately, within 1 second of that being filed, you order Gayadiz Saralta, the director of the federal marshals, to muster up all 4,000 of his federal marshals to conduct a raid at 2 or 3 in the morning tonight. Onto Colorado's prison, where she is held in the hole at the shoe to extract her. And if they push back, if there's any sort of escalation of force by Colorado, that must be considered as an insurrectionist move. And that is when you mobilize all federal assets across the entire executive branch to include any military that is in Colorado Springs, in Denver, to mobilize to quell that insurrectionist Colorado leadership failureship as you extract Tina Peters to be a federal witness against Jenna Griswold, and you crush them. There's no more filing of motions here. You do it. There is now an opportunity for legal, moral, ethical, kinetic actions to conduct business and accomplish your campaign promises.
I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. This is a Gold Star mother who protected the integrity of that election, and at great expense, right? She's lost her husband.
I'd be happy to lead the task force.
I know, Ivan. I believe me.
There's go into mission planning. We'd go into isolation for the next 6 hours. It would take 6 hours to war game mission analysis, task purpose, give the necessary orders, directives, then deploy immediately on the next military. We would do the mission planning on the flight over as we then figure out where everyone's going to be, do PCIs, pre-combat inspections, pre-combat checks, radio, have a pace plan, radio, medical, movement, everything.
Yeah.
And then give out the order to everybody, and then I'll put my Special Forces Lieutenant Colonel hat on, and we go ahead and extract Tina Peters.
Yeah. It needs to be done. Look, President Trump has got the biggest bullhorn right now on the planet. When he picks up the microphone, everybody listens. He should be every single day saying, today is November 21st. Tina Peters is still in prison. General Griswold, I'm coming for you. Get her out. He should have been saying that every single
for you. It should be, like
Right.
tonight, you should see it happening, and people are waking up like, oh, what's going on here?
And in other words, it shouldn't have been a surprise to Jenna Griswold that she's getting arrested and that Tina Peters the prison was getting, raided by federal marshals to release her. That should be no
Right.
surprise. He should have been advising that this was going to happen if they didn't release her.
And that's why I've been furious since January 21st.
Yeah,
Because none of this has occurred. I mean,
No.
these are simple. This is such simple activity for people like, no, this is so simple.
Yeah.
It requires one sentence call, and then Pam Bondi does another one sentence call, and then the other, then you distribute it out to the entire federal marshal program. Boom.
Right. I agree. Let's shift gears right now because
Speaking
Tina
of boom,
Tina Peters' story gets me so hot under the collar. I'm sick of it. I cried this morning in my husband's office. I was reading this and I broke down. I love Tina. She's a friend. This is disgusting. And she honestly
the
didn't
weakness of this administration.
Yeah, it's not good. All right, let's shift back to Susie Wiles, someone that you have focused on for a long time. Her influence over President Trump's campaign, Bibi Netanyahu's campaign, White House operations. What specifically did you uncover about her role that is probably like the thing that really gets under your collar and just gets you hot?
I would have to say nothing has been personal up to the point where it's just been on paper. I've been researching, trying to figure out who in this administration is essentially blocking the basics, right? And so you have to ask questions. You throw out names, and as you like you said, you find me the man or woman. I find the crime, right? When the president makes statements for the second time now that Susie Wiles is the most powerful woman in the world and can destroy a country with one phone call,
Who's running the country?
I take that as a challenge to say that, you know what, Donald Trump got elected in spite of her. In spite of her. We knew these things, okay? Now, other people are going to say, oh, Donald Trump got elected because of her. Okay. I think if you polled the entire country that voted for him, they would beg to differ. But having said that, I have no personal animus for her because I don't know her. I'm not communicated with her. But when she is the person leading the 4 organizations that were subpoenaed by Jackass Smith, and I'm not even given a heads up about it for 2.5 years, that piques my interest, Miss Wiles. Now, you may have a fair explanation behind it, but absent a fair explanation and transparency, if I don't have that, I am only compelled to investigate you.
Right.
And every time I look into you, it becomes problematic for me. Even though it may be lawful what you're doing, as more people see it, they find it to be repulsive and disgusting. The pay for play, the foreign agent registration filings, the lobbyist forms, the connections, the relationships, the leaks that happen, the quote unquote non-leak leaks that go on to Axios, that go on to, I'm not I'm not the smartest, let's just say this, I'm not the dumbest guy in the room. I have no loyalty to any administration. I have a loyalty to the truth and making sure that there's less corruption. That's all I care about. So if I see anybody slow walking accountability, you're in my crosshairs. It doesn't, like, if Ann Vandersteel blocks any accountability, like, I'm coming for you, Ann.
Yeah.
Even though I love you.
Yeah, I know.
And that's the same message that I tell people that I've known in government for 20 years. I said, if I sense that you are in any way, shape, or form involved in, say, for example, Crossfire Hurricane or Arctic Frost, you now just went from being my friend, colleague, someone I have professional respect for, and I flipped the switch. Okay. Yeah. And I want people to hold me to the same standard.
Absolutely. It's called civic duty, Ivan. Guess
what? I have a leg to stand on because they've already done that investigation of me.
Amen.
And nothing, undefeated. Okay? Undefeated. I want to rub that in. I want to teabag everybody that's a hater out there to say, I am undefeated. Okay?
All right. You've said repeatedly the intel agencies, congressional committees, and federal courts acted as a unified, weaponized structure. what's the pattern of behavior that convinced you that all this was coordinated? It's kind of a rhetorical question, but we're talking about the entire apparatus here, right? We're talking about the legislative branch, the judicial branch, the intelligence branch. First of all, the intelligence branch shouldn't even exist, really. It's not even a thing in the Constitution. We have a military, so you can, I guess, chunk it up there. But what makes you really believe that this is truly a coordinated effort?
Oh my gosh, we don't have that much time, but I'll say this, is that I got subpoenas from Jack Smith, 4 of them, or through other organizations targeting me. I had other subpoenas by the DOJ, FBI. Let me put it this way, Ann. I have evidence that the DHS, like I have receipts, DHS, DOD, DOJ, J6 committee, all of them investigated me. And underneath that, I have 2 contract companies that I was working with. Let me list them all. Within the Department of Defense, Office of Secretary of Defense, Counter Intel and Security. Fort Belvoir, 902nd Counterintelligence, Criminal Investigation Division. My U.S. Army Reserve Unit, twice. My, let's see here, the 2 contract companies, Defense Threat Reduction Agency, the Defense Intelligence Agency, okay? That's just on the DOD side of things that I know of. Okay, now let's move on to DHS. I know at the latest in June of 2021, I was a target of an investigation. These are receipts, okay?
Yeah.
From there, I was placed on the Quiet Skies program, which you're very intimately familiar with. You beat me to that. You beat me to the punch on that one.
I did. I was put on it in May of 21. Yeah, I did.
The thing is, the difference between the reason why people say I'm more investigated than Donald Trump is because it was only the DOJ that went after Donald Trump. I was in the intel community and the Department of Defense, Army, right, through that component. So I had the intel community coming after me. Not only did the J6 committee and DOJ go after Trump, but like they mentioned my name. I'm in Jack Smith's indictment as the first thing in the sequence of events that in their fact pattern to go after Trump was my Operation Penscard tweet. Right. That the J6 committee mentioned in the 3rd hearing that Jack Smith pulled in his indictment of Donald Trump through Jack Smith, right? So J6 committee, proof. DOD, I just mentioned. DOJ, the Joint Terrorism Task Force, the Washington Field Office, the DC, looks like I got to move here. The Washington Field Office, the headquarters, National Security Division of the Department of Justice, National Security Branch of the FBI, okay? And so we had all those. Northern Virginia Joint Terrorism Task Force. All of them were investigating me, okay? And it was coordinated by, why? Because I know that they were coordinating, communicating with the Criminal Investigation Division of the Department of Defense, Department of Army. I got receipts.
Are these investigations, in your opinion, are they related to this timeline from, say, 2014, where the Ukraine revolution, or we overthrew the government?
They are all related to not bending on COVID.
It's all related to COVID, so nothing to do with any of your stuff you've done.
Not bending on the 2020 election heist.
2020,
and then the January. I mean, I was in D.C. on January 6th, right?
Right.
I was in D.C. So they're looking at me from all different angles. They found me, and they were trying to find a crime. Because remember in August of 2021 when they put out the DHS threat bulletin, oh, you're a domestic terrorist if you're not going to participate in the COVID products. You're a domestic terrorist if you think that the 2020 election was completely illegitimate and stolen. Okay, right. Check. You're going to remember the 20-year anniversary of 9/11. You're going to celebrate with your family during Christmas. Well, I fit every single of those categories. So bring it on. Like, I don't know what part of Green Beret and lawyer they missed and you know what? I so want to use expletives, but let's just keep it to this. Jackass Smith, Nancy Pelosi, I don't care who you are. You can be backed by trillions. Guess what? I don't care. I am coming for you, okay? Now, if we had a administration right now that wasn't a cowardly, toxic, feckless, stone-cold coward administration, mirror image practically of Mike Pence, then they would participate with us in creating accountability. But so far, they've only slow-walked, slow-rolled. They still have 99% of the DOJ is still loyal to Eric Holder, Sally Yates, and Rod Rosenstein. 99% of the FBI is still loyal to James Comey, and Christopher Ray. Excuse me, Christopher Ray Epps. Anyway, I gotta go, Ann.
Oh, you gotta go. Oh, Ivan, come on.
I thought we were only doing 30 minutes. I was supposed to have a 2 o'clock interview right outside the White House with someone, and I'm already late.
Oh, shoot. Okay, Ivan, I'm so sorry about that. Well, listen, I got more to cover with you, but we'll get back to that some other time. I really appreciate you, Ivan. Truly, I do. And I know you're all about America only, so that's good. I think we're done with America first. That's not working out, so we're going to have to do America only.
Yep. Well, we need
all
to
right, man.
Get our house in order, then we can have a conversation about other countries.
That's exactly right. All right, man. Thank you so much for being here today. God bless you, Ivan, and for everything that you're doing. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you. God bless.
Bye. Well, there you have it. The deep state marauder. He laid it out. There's so much more I wanted to talk to him about. I mean, he's got clarity and courage, unlike many people who won't lay it out the way he does. There's very few people that will step up to the microphone and just put it out there. And I think he's made a, pretty clear case for just how threatening he is to all this different agency government, because they don't want their operations exposed. And what we've just exposed here is that this isn't just a political disagreement, right? We've got what I would consider to be a full-scale structural corruption problem affecting every major institution in this government, in our country. The intelligence agencies, political parties, federal courts, big corporate media, the fake news, we got big pharma, and we've got, of course, all the foreign influence networks out there. So whether you guys agree with every point or not that our guests today made, whether you agree with the documents that were shown, I mean, you can look them up for yourself, the subpoenas, these coordinated investigations have really, what I would have to say, painted a really clear picture. There is an interest in silencing those of us who expose the system. And by the way, folks, Ivan's right about one thing. We are out of the denial phase. There is no longer a Republican versus Democrat situation going on here. It is we the people against big government. There's no longer a left or right anymore. It's we the people against big establishment, corrupt government. This is a split between the people who serve America and the people who serve themselves, clearly. And the America Only movement is not a slogan. It's basically, I would call it a survival imperative. So get yourself educated, get involved locally. My first guest, Ryan Kennedy, talked about what they're doing here in Florida. I think it's fantastic. Attend the meetings that you've avoided. Whether you're a parent, go to that PTA meeting, go to the school board meeting, go to your local council meeting. I'm not asking you to say anything. What I'm suggesting is be a menacing presence. Just sit in the back of the room, kick back, maybe have a glass of wine before you go so you feel relaxed, but just sit in the back of the room with your hands folded and just stare these people in the face and let them know you're watching them, because it is our civic duty. It is our right. It is what God intended for this beautiful second covenant nation. When those founding fathers penned those love letters, the Declaration of Independence and our Constitution, for God's sakes, we have to live up to the spirit of the duty that we have to do, because we, the people, are the government. And we hire these idiots that have now stolen our freedom. They've stolen our country. They've created agency government, which is not listed in anything in our Constitution, specifically Article 1, Section 8. None of these agencies are listed as the 19 things that Congress has the right to do. So, I mean, it's insane that we're actually even here at this moment. So become that force multiplier that our country needs. So again, I just want to thank you. I'm Ann Vandersteel. Guys, stay awake, stay engaged, and stay unafraid, because truth still has a place in America, as long as we're willing to speak it. That's all I got for you today. You guys have a great afternoon, and thanks for joining. I do appreciate it. I'm going to give you a little, a little Steve Bannon just to fire you up before we leave.
All the people that have gone out there against the mainstream media and said, you're going to call us racist, you're going to call us potential Timothy McVeighs, fuck you.